I know you're excited. Just keep looking at me. All right. I know. It's so exciting. Exogens. Okay? All right, so we have been learning about how to find evidence in a text to help us understand what we're reading. So we are going to read our I can statement together for today. I can answer questions to show my understanding of key details in a non-fiction text. All right, so when we read and we use evidence from the text, it helps us to understand what we're reading and what the author is trying to tell us and help us to learn from the text. Yesterday, we used evidence to find out about a tadpole. And I loved reading or writing and all the evidence that you found about tadpoles to help you to answer your questions. Today we're going to be doing something really similar. Okay, we're going to be reading about a butterfly's life cycle. We're going to read about the first part of a butterfly's life cycle today. Tomorrow during small group time, we're going to read about the other part. Okay? So, one of the main things that I love about nonfiction text are they have awesome photographs. They are pictures of real things. This is pictures of actual larvae, or the caterpillars, the eggs, and this is a bigger caterpillar. So we're going to be using these pictures and using our text to answer a question. And today's question is, what is a host plant? So I'm going to use evidence, and I can even use evidence from my captions to help me answer this question. All right, so the first thing I like to do is show the pictures because I love learning about new things. So let's see. This says, the laid eggs and hatched larvae of a large white butterfly are seen on the leaf of a host plant. I just found that word. I remember my question was, what is a host plant? And I just found host plant. So I'm going to underline that sentence so that I remember to go back and use this sentence as evidence to help me answer the question, what is a host plant? Down here it says, trek, talk. And I see these little footprints. And when I see these little footprints and I see the word trek, I think about a hike or a journey. Because a trek is something, a journey, a hike that you take to help you to learn about things in the environment. People go on treks to find animals, to find different plants or trees, and they look at all those things during a trek. So let's see what this teaches us. Trek talk. Caterpillars such as this spring azure release a sweet liquid or honeydew that ants like to eat. In return, the ants protect the caterpillar from harm. That's pretty cool. So it doesn't really answer anything about my host plant, but it is good information for us to learn about them. There are animals in our environment that work together. Caterpillars and ants work together because the ants want their honeydew, their nectar, and the caterpillars then are protected by the ants from other insects or things that would hurt them. So they work together. That's pretty awesome. Okay, let's read and see if we can find any more evidence about what is a host plant. When it enters the world, a butterfly larva is an eating machine. It chews its way out of its egg, eats the shell, and usually begins munching on its host plant right away. I'm going to stop because I just saw the host plant. So it chews its way out of the egg, it eats the shell, and usually begins munching on the host plant right away. More evidence about host plant. That's going to help us answer the question, what is a host plant? It has powerful jaws. To grow, it molts or sheds its skin. Caterpillars of most species molt 4 or 5 times during their first 2 weeks that they're alive. Think about that. It molts, it sheds its skin, it takes its skin off 4 or 5 different times. And it's alive for 2 weeks. That's a lot. By the end of that time, the 2 weeks, a caterpillar can weigh 1,000 times more than it did at birth when it was born. So it weighs, when it was born, after 2 weeks, it weighs 1,000 times more than that. It's a lot. Okay, so let's look back at our question. What is a host plant? Okay, let's look back at the evidence I underlined. We said the laid eggs and hatched larvae of a white butterfly are seen on the leaf of a host plant. Okay, so I see host plant there, and I see leaf. I know plants and leaves are our plants. I can also see up here that they are actually on the leaf. So I know a host plant for a butterfly is some kind of leaf. Now I see the eggs, I see the larvae, the caterpillars. It says it chews its way out of its egg. It eats the shell, and it usually begins munching. Munching means eating its host plant right away. So right away it's going to start eating or munching on that leaf. So it tells me that this host plant is not only a nice safe place for these eggs to be laid and for the caterpillars or larvae to be born, but it's also a really great place. It's a great source of food for them to help them start growing right away. Because we did learn that they grow really quickly. I also know, I just know from my past experiences that a host, the word host, is usually a person that welcomes you into a place. Like right now, I'm being a host to all these teachers. So a host plant could be like a welcoming plant for these butterflies to come and lay their eggs on. And we know that it's going to be nutritious for them to eat. So in just a minute, I want you to turn and talk to your partner. And I want you to try to come up with a sentence for what is a host plant based on the evidence that we just found together. Okay, go ahead and turn and talk. Alright, good job guys. Turn back around. Hey, I heard some really good conversations. I heard one group say that a host plant is a plant where butterflies lay their eggs so that they have something good to eat when they hatch to help them grow. So I am going to write that down right over here. I'm going to write the answer to what is a host plant. Okay, so a host plant is a plant that butterflies lay their eggs on so they have a good, maybe a good source of food. To help them grow. Now I do want you to notice I wrote that in a complete sentence. So remember today when you are going into collaborative groups, that's one of the things we need to remember is that we write our answer in a complete sentence. Okay, so today when you get into collaborative groups, you are going to have this same picture. And you're going to be looking for evidence to answer the question, why do caterpillars molt or shed, remember we said that means shed, their skin so often during the first 2 weeks that they are alive? You're going to write your answer underneath the question. And make sure you underline your evidence. Okay, so remember to find evidence. You've got to use the evidence to answer your question. Okay, any questions? All right. If you, we're going to need tables. Okay, so if you're a partner that comes to get the markers, you can grab them. Otherwise, you may go to your spot. Okay, Ben?
First, we're going to do this. I would rather be Ben because he's the one that's fix your glasses. You're such a
Okay, have y'all read it again? Okay, go ahead and start reading this out loud so that you can read it one more time. And every time you find your evidence, what are you going to do?
A host plan. Okay? Miss Summer's going to read this so we can get going on finding our text evidence, okay? I'm going to read it really quick. Caterpillars such as this spring azure release a sweet liquid or honeydew that ants like to eat in return. The ants protect the caterpillar from harm. Okay, so Miss Summer's going to go ahead and reread this because we did all this reading. We may forget what we're trying to find, okay? You can read with me. How about that? Why do most caterpillars molt so often during the first 2 weeks they are alive? Nicole, what's molt mean again? Because that's a really important word. What's molt mean? Very good. The skin's coming up. They're shedding their skin. Do we do that? We kind of do. When we have dry skin and we get sunburned, we kind of molt some dead skin off. Okay, so now what's our task? Okay, answer this question in the text. And then we're going to try to answer it right here in complete sentences. Okay, any ideas? Cameron, you said you had an idea, so would you get your marker and let's decide what we should possibly underline.
Wait, did you get new glasses? You got them fixed?
Remember, it has to answer the questions. Why do they molt so often?
I was gonna say, slide back a little bit. I can't even see what you're writing, babe. Okay, so why do caterpillars molt so often during their first 2 weeks? Why do they have to molt? Amaya? Why do they have to molt so much?
Right.
Oh, well, what did it say?
Okay,
Let's
now,
look back at our evidence.
that's
What do we-
important, but
right.
is it really answering the
What
question?
did you highlight?
Why do they molt so often? I mean, that's really important. That
Promise. All right, so let's look at it. Read it.
the laid eggs.
Right now, you're getting bigger and bigger. You were a baby. Now you're a kid. You'll be an adult. You are growing. Yeah. So when they're growing, they have to get how much bigger, Peyton? How much bigger do they have to get? 1,000 times bigger. So they molt so often. Can you put that into a sentence? What do you think, Peyton?
It's not.
That magic word?
Okay. What do you think, Daniela? They need to grow how much bigger? That's awesome. Write that down. Okay, friends, how we doing? See what we got. Alright, so let's see. Why do most caterpillars molt so often during the first 2 weeks they're alive? So you wrote it molts or sheds its skin. Caterpillars molt 4 or 5 what? Okay, so it molts or sheds its skin because it needs to grow. Okay, awesome. So how much does it need to grow? Is there evidence in this text that tells you how much it needs to grow? Did you find it? I don't see that you found it. Keep looking. Well, it molts 4 or 5 times, yes, but how much does it need to grow? 1,000 what? Okay, so it's got to grow 1,000 times bigger, right? That's what it says, right? It's got to get 1,000 times bigger. It's going to weigh 1,000 times more than it did at birth. So when they are first born, look at me, they're like this big. They're teeny, 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 tiny.
In real life.
You can barely even see them. When you guys see caterpillars, they've already grown. Because the other ones are like smaller than a grain of rice. One piece of rice, they're smaller than that when they're born. Yeah, so now when you've seen them, they're like 1,000 times bigger than that. Right? Okay, so what can we say? Why do they need to molt so often in the first 2 weeks they're alive? It molts or sheds its skin because it needs to grow what? Okay, but what can we just add to the end of this sentence? Instead of the period, yes. What can we add to the sentence? It molts or sheds its skin because it needs to grow. Yeah, add that. So that, what'd you say, Baruch? Because it needs to grow. What?
Okay, so what's the next point you want to write down?
Yeah. So let's add that in there. Okay? Ask her what she said. Say it slowly so you can write it.
You be thinking of your next statement.
I'll ride. But what if they gave us a